The next item is public meeting item number 6 in your green packet, and this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at 152 West 13th Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. Docket number 15-3774, Block 608, Lot 13 in Manhattan. And this is a Greek Revival-style row house built in 1846, and the application is to construct rooftop and rear yard additions and replace windows. This was also read into the record on July 22nd and is being presented for the first time today.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hillary Paget, Preservation Department staff. This property is located on the south side of West 13th Street between Avenue of the Americas and 7th Avenue. A 1940s tax photograph and an existing photo shows the building within the row. Photos at the rear of the building show alterations to the rear facade at the first 2 levels, as you can see here, and rear yard additions at the neighboring row houses. The applicant is proposing to construct a rooftop addition and extend an existing chimney at the front of the building that you'll see in later slides. It's right there. Construct a rear yard addition and install high energy efficient windows with fixed upper sash and tilt and turn lower sashes at the front of the building and energy efficient windows at the rear. And a portion of the chimney extension, which I mentioned earlier, is integrated into the parapet wall of the new rooftop addition and will be visible from certain areas on West 13th Street. And the architect is here to present the application.
We'll reopen the hearing.
Hi, how are you? Michael Ingui from Bax Ingui Architects. So the house is described. Here you go. I think I'll describe it mostly from this, if you don't mind.
Fine.
So we're adding a 3-story rear addition, which will have a cellar. It matches pretty closely with an addition that's already on the block. We've got a 1-story addition at the top. The rear addition will be brick. It's currently painted. The paint is actually peeling off already. It looks like it wasn't done that well, so we've gotten a pretty good sense of the brick. The windows in the back are going to be black-clad Zola windows. It'll be a passive house, so there's very the mechanical units, which are shown. The pointer too, right? Yeah, there you go. That's the mechanical unit. That's your elevator bulkhead. There's actually 2 of them. It's 2 4-ton units. We've actually done quite a bit of work on the rear facade. We had a great meeting with Community Board 2 when we were calendared first, and we've actually changed the character of the rear facade to kind of work with some of their comments, change the railing type, regularize some of the windows. Going back to what's visible and to the front facade. The rear addition, we created a mock-up, isn't visible, but there is a piece of the chimney from the next door neighbor that we have to raise 3 feet above ours, which is visible. Yeah.
It's definitely a chimney
Big
there.
different chimneys. Front facade is also painted right now. You can actually see it almost looks like brick already. That is also going to come off nice and easily, and we're going to remove the air conditioners and hatch.
Can you go back to the slide, which is 003?
Oh, and then, sorry, and the windows, these are Zola windows as well. Thank you, sorry. These are Zola windows as well, which will be fixed upper sash until turned lower. And the Zola, which I think I mentioned here once before, the meeting rail does now match what's there with parking.
Can you go back to the slide which has the rear? Yes, this one. Under the proposed rear facade, can you tell us what the face of the existing building is?
Yes, so the face of the existing building is in line
Okay.
with the neighbors. These are actually the existing lintels. This is a window right now, we're trying to get into a door.
Okay, and then the addition on top, is that setback? I just can't
Yeah,
tell.
I'm sorry, it's hard to tell, it's set back about 3 feet from
But-
from the back, and we're keeping the
But
existing.
there's a canopy that goes, is it like a recessed window, or is it?
Yeah, so actually, so the roof does extend a little bit past, and but the walls, the side walls, and the rear wall are all set back 3 feet.
Right.
There is. Here it is. We have it. There you go. So we're setting that back really for
Right.
sun.
Okay.
For shading purposes.
Right. I think that, and the commissioners can tell me if I'm wrong, but sometimes the reason we ask for this to be set back is so that it reads separately from the original building. I think by having the canopy, and I don't know what they seem like, fins, that may defeat the purpose.
I can understand that. I think we'd be open to setting up.
Okay. All right.
And the railing as it is now is what, on the edge of the parapet?
So actually, we set the railing back on the lower railing is, and the upper railing we actually set back to this wall. It's only the overhang that's going over, but we can bring the overhang back.
I
So
was
it's
actually
relatively
looking
tight.
at where the railing on the bottom is sitting, that one is set, this is like right on the edge
Yes,
too, right?
that's actually, so you've got that exterior brick course, that corbelling course. We're actually 2 courses deep back from that.
You know, the fins don't go all the way to the edge of the building. There's a
Right.
little wall that continues, so you don't read it as an enclosure.
No.
Okay. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it's it doesn't, you don't read it as an enclosure because not completely.
It's open on the side.
Right, but I think the projection, something that doesn't, it just reads like it's one plane, at least in.
I think if it was canvas or a louver, it would be better.
I can understand. I think I think it does have a sense of the
It feels like a plane, so if there's something, just,
I think I think there are other ways we can handle our, actually, to be clear, I'm not even sure this really handled our sun the way we
Like a lot of,
Yeah,
We
sunshades.
wanted it to, in our minds it doesn't.
okay, so I think, I'm sure you
No
can work
credit
out the
for
detail of that.
intention.
Top 3 feet.
All right. Are there, yes. Are
They
there
look
other
good.
questions? Yes, Diana?
Yeah, just visibility of the rooftop addition.
The rooftop addition itself isn't visible, but this chimney is
Okay,
visible.
just
This
that,
is, this is the neighboring chimney. This is school next door, and we have to raise that up to 3 feet above this.
Yeah, okay.
And
That's-
it'll be brick to match.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? All right, thank you. Okay. Margaret J. Ward? Yes, you can speak? Yes, please speak there. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Margaret J. Ward, co-owner with my 2 daughters of 154, which was the adjacent building. And my concern and problem is with the fact that the addition goes up for 3 floors, extending out 15 feet, which will take away a great deal of light from my windows. And also, I am especially concerned that the top floor of the extension, which comes off the, I don't know whether you want to call it the 4th floor or the 3rd floor, but anyway, the top floor of the building as it exists now, which perhaps is proposed as a children's bedroom area. The terrace is 15 feet, and that will look directly into the bedroom windows, the master bedroom windows and bathroom of my unit. I find that very worrisome. I think my tenants might be very upset by that if kids are standing on the terrace looking in at them. I talked to the architect. He said, oh, we could put some shrubs or something there. Then that would remove more light. So I really am concerned that it goes out so far, 15 feet, this addition. Next door at 150 and next door to me at 156, the additions don't go up to that last floor. So it's the last floor. In other words, they're more stepped back. And they don't go out nearly as far. At 156, I think they're maximum 10 feet. They went out a lot on the ground floor and then put a terrace there. And then on the upper floors, they stepped back so that it isn't taking as much light and privacy away from my building. So, and that, as you can see from this photograph at 150, the addition goes up one floor less than what they are proposing. I'm really concerned with that top floor addition, which will look into bedrooms and bathroom from the terrace, stretching out 15 feet beyond the existing line of the building. I find that going to be a definite problem.
Thank you. Barbara Zay?
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. This little 1846 house becomes lost in these cumulative accretions. It seems to be a case of what a former commissioner used to describe as asking too much from a little house. HDC asks that the full-width rear yard and rooftop additions both be reduced so that the historic house's original character is retained. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? All right. Community Board recommends approval of the rooftop addition, but recommends denial of the asymmetric, unappealing design of the rearward addition. All right. Would you like to respond to that? Because you noted that you had been working with the Community Board.
That was the prior design.
Was it the prior
Yeah,
design?
actually, we found Community Board 2 to be pretty, actually it was a pretty long meeting, and they were very, very helpful. Yeah, the prior design, this looked a bit different, and it was asymmetric. We actually didn't leave a lot of brick on the side. It was quite different. We actually had different railings at the balconettes as we had here, as we had there. We actually had an asymmetric large window here, so we took a lot of what they actually said. We don't always do that. We probably don't always do that, but in this particular case, there were two people there who were actually, in my opinion, probably the people who wrote that, but they were actually spot on a few of the items, so we actually listened to it. So this is a revised version.
Okay.
In terms of the depth, there's a couple of key pieces to look at. There are a lot of accretions on the block all around this in terms of its height and its depth. Besides the fact that it still has its big original brick corbelling and so forth, there are no character items, unfortunately, left in the house. This house has been stripped and modernized a very long time ago. And in terms of where we came up with the depth, and I won't go into that much detail with this, but I'll describe it quickly. The neighboring building actually comes onto this property by a foot. Actually, I'm just going to point. Comes out onto the property a foot. So one of the things that's dictating the depth is we're actually putting a column here and actually putting a beam across that to help stabilize both the additions that the neighbor has as well as ours. And bringing it out to that depth actually allows that to happen. I mean, over the years we've seen it a lot where we've got one addition that's a foot onto our property, another one that's actually on the property line. So what we're doing here is actually creating a grade beam to actually support that, because whoever built that addition way back when did it with no foundation. So we're actually supporting that for them. And we're doing a column above this and supporting above it. One of those things you have to do with neighbors sometimes. And but that's what's dictating the depth. And it's very similar to where the neighbors were as well. So maybe too much information, but at least.
Right, but I'm just curious, if you wanted to keep it flush with the line of the adjacent building, would you not be able to do that for structural reasons?
I would have to take their addition down to a certain degree. And
You'd have to break through it,
it's a
is that
functioning
right?
kitchen right next to this, and if we can't put the column at this location,
Mhm.
it would be honestly this whole function. But there's literally a functioning kitchen to flex muscles right behind it, and I think they'd be pretty upset. So what we're doing is we're putting a column here and we're underpinning that wall, so that wall now becomes non-load bearing. That's what's creating this whole piece. But also, I mean, I also feel like, I went into it structurally, but I think also, and this is again my take it with a grain of salt, but I feel it's consistent with a lot of other additions, including ones that are very close by in terms of its mass and its character.
But the two that are immediately adjacent are much shallower, right?
Yes.
So yours is 14 and theirs,
Yeah, this is very similar. This is about 3 feet shorter, but this is also part of the school, which has an accretion that really, although we drew it as a netty kind of piece, this comes into the yard almost 30 feet.
and on the other side,
You know, they could,
right there, your neighbor, your immediate neighbor.
this person.
No, the other, isn't there, yeah, right.
Yeah, they are, well, let's look here. So you've got our addition, and you've got the neighbor, they've got a 1-story addition that goes full depth, the whole yard depth. Then they've got a 2-story addition that's back about 2 feet, which actually isn't shown in this drawing.
It's
And then-
not shown in the drawing because, right, because
Yes.
it should have been deeper.
Yeah, this is a little deeper, it's a miss. And then we've got the neighbor next door, which also goes deeper on their first floor, which is hard to see, and then goes very similar to our depth on their second and third floors.
So is the 3D also
Actually, the 3D is correct.
inaccurate?
The 3D is correct.
Okay, because I can't see where that second, the 2 stories, yes, that.
Actually, yeah,
Because
you
it's
know why?
supposed-
Because
it's almost-
Because it's in here.
Right, but doesn't it almost align with your building?
Yeah, actually, I think we have it better.
I thought
potentially
when
on
you
our
showed
plans.
us the,
So,
yeah.
you can see it better in this plan. So here's our addition,
Yes,
here's the addition next door, here's the 2-story addition, here's the 1-story addition that's on top of that, and here's the addition that goes the full depth. This is
I see,
This is
okay,
really accurate.
okay. Any other questions? All right, we can close the hearing then.
So moved.
All right, comments, concerns? Yes, Michael?
I think it's a really reasonable, appropriate little project. And I look forward to when I get to retire to my studio in the building that overlooks this, I'll be able to look down on it. I think it's a nice job.
Okay, good, yes.
Well, I think it's reasonable. I think that it would be even more reasonable if the top floor at the rear was pulled back some,
Okay,
for more definition.
I agree, we can, and then they've agreed to do that, so they can work with staff on that?
Well, they've agreed to push the eyebrow
It
back.
just, yes, I'm saying, push back the whole thing.
I think, all right, but I think the only thing I would say is that the 3 feet is something that we have consistently been doing, so I don't know if there's, yes, it's 3 feet, and I think they've worked with that staff on that, so they've been consistent with what the commission has agreed to. I think the only change is that, in this case, the canopy or the portion of the roof extends over, and they'll kind of,
Not to mention that the building 2 doors down has one that's at the line.
yeah, okay,
I have nothing to add.
yeah. Okay, all right, if, Michael, do you want to read the rest of it?
Sure. Regarding 152 West 13th Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District, the application is to construct rooftop and rear yard additions and replace the windows. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed sash and frame of the high-energy performance windows will closely match the historic windows in terms of configuration details, profiles, and dimensions. The fixed upper sash will be in a different plane from the lower sash, replicating the appearance of the historic window sash. That the change in operation of the lower sash will only be perceptible when the sash is open, that the rooftop and rear of the building have no significant architectural features that be lost or damaged by the construction of the proposed additions, that the proposed rooftop and rear yard additions will not be visible from the public thoroughfare, that only a small portion of the raised brick chimney and raised brick parapet will be visible from West 13th Street, will not detract from the architectural character of the facade and streetscape, that the rooftop addition featuring metal window and door assemblies, brick sidewalls, metal railings will set back from both the front and rear facades of the building will be keeping with the similar rooftop additions throughout this historic district. However, the applicant will reduce or eliminate the overhang at that rooftop addition. That a majority of other buildings of this type in the block feature comparable or larger rear yard additions or enlargements in terms of their height and projection into the rear yard, and therefore will not further diminish the central green space. That the rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building, thereby preserving historic fabric and the building's original volume in relation to the row. That the rear yard addition, featuring brick cladding and large punched openings with window and door assemblies, will retain the scale and character of this row house, and that the proposed work will be supportive of the architectural and historic character of the building and the Greenwich Village Historic District.